Do you ever scroll past a recipe and think, that looks amazing, but I've never tried making it? That's how I felt about Mongolian beef. I've ordered it plenty of times, but I've never made it myself. There aren't many Asian restaurants where I live, and sometimes you just want to learn how to make one of your favorite meals at home. So I read a few different recipes and figured, why not give it a shot? This is how we get better in the kitchen. Try something we love to eat, trust our instincts, and see what happens. You're coming along for the ride today. Welcome back to Nancy's Homestyle Kitchen, where I teach you how to cook real food that feels like home with simple steps, affordable ingredients, and no pressure to be perfect. Normally, I stick to old favorites or family recipes, but today I'm branching out and I want you to see that process too. I saw this gorgeous thin sliced New York strip labeled Shabu beef at Costco, and I had no idea what I was gonna do with it. My first thought was, I'm gonna make carne asada, but I've been doing a lot of Mexican-inspired dishes lately, so I wanted to try something new. Mongolian beef is a dish I've always liked, and it seemed like the perfect balance of bold flavor and approachable ingredients. So I pulled from a few recipes online, took note of what they had in common, and put my own spin on it. This episode is less about perfection and more about the process. We're figuring this out together, and I hope it gives you the confidence to do the same in your own kitchen. Stick around till the end, and I'll show you what I would tweak, what I'd keep, and what I'll do differently next time. Normally, this is where I go over all of the ingredients, the measurements, etc., but I have some ideas on some measurements, and others we're gonna wing it. So let's get started. The first thing we need to do is cut up all this beautiful New York strip steak and get it into the bowl. Now that the meat is all sliced, we're gonna go ahead and prepare the marinade. So the first thing we're gonna do is add 2 tablespoons of cornstarch to my bowl. We'll be adding more cornstarch later too, because that's what makes it crispy when you fry it up. So we have the cornstarch, 2 teaspoons of baking soda. And this, from what I read, the baking soda helps tenderize the meat. This meat actually looks really tender when I was cutting it, but we're just gonna go with the recipes that I saw. 2 tablespoons of water that I already have measured out in this bowl. And then now for the rest of the wet ingredients, I need a teaspoon of oil, so I'm gonna use just an avocado oil that I use daily. Oh, that was 2 teaspoons of oil. Good thing I looked at my little recipe. And then I also need 1 teaspoon of soy sauce. And this is a low sodium soy sauce. I try to use that more because you can always add more salt. But if something is just too salty, it kind of ruins the dish for me. So I'm opting for the low sodium. And the last thing that I saw was a lot of cooks were using, they call it Shaoxing wine. Because I live rural, I couldn't find it at my local store. So they said a good substitute for that was sherry wine. So I'm using 2 teaspoons of sherry. Maybe a little more than 2 teaspoons. Okay. So that is it. Cornstarch, baking soda, water, oil, soy sauce, and wine. So let's give that a mix. And then all we're gonna do is pour this over the meat, toss it, and we're gonna put it in the refrigerator for a bit. Now it says you can marinate this anywhere from 2 to 12 hours. I'm just gonna marinate it. It's about noon here, and I'm gonna cook this for dinner tonight. So I'll be marinating it for a good 4 to 5 hours. Okay, so I'm gonna put this over here so I don't get it splattered. And then I will be putting all the ingredients in the description box for you guys so you can go down there and see exactly what I used. Okay, so give this a good toss because we want to get all that meat coated. That's why I was pretty diligent about separating it after I sliced it and was putting it into this bowl, because you really want to incorporate the baking soda and the cornstarch and everything and get a good coat on that meat. And I can actually smell the wine and the soy sauce. Okay, that's it. Pretty easy marinade. I'm just gonna cover this with plastic wrap and pop it in the fridge, and we'll be back in about 4 to 5 hours. Should I say we got one shot at this, people? Let's do it. It's been almost 6 hours since I put the meat in the refrigerator, and we are ready to cook. So I'm gonna turn my pan on high to get it warmed up kind of quickly. I have about 1/4 inch of avocado oil in the pan, and here is the meat. It should have, from everything that I read, absorbed most of the liquid that was in here. And yeah, it really has. It's pretty dry. So I am going to, let's see. I'm going to add a splash of water to this. Hold tight. Just a splash. And then what we want to do is coat this in some more of the cornstarch, because that's what's going to give it, when you go to Chinese food and you get the meat and it has just that nice crispy outside texture, that's what we're aiming for. So let's put some cornstarch in here. I think I'm going to do it in a couple different batches. And what we're going to do is we're going to fry this up in small batches. And because this meat is so thin, it's not really going to take that much time to do it. But if we were just to put a bunch of the meat in there, it'll overcrowd the pan. It won't fry. It'll kind of turn watery and it won't be crispy. Okay. Let's go with this. Adding that little bit of water into here is giving a little bit of moisture back to that meat so the cornstarch can stick to it. And I do have some pieces in here that don't have a good coating, but I'm actually kind of afraid to over cornstarch it, so I'm just going to go with this. So I don't think that's hot yet, but what we can do is just take a piece and kind of dip it in, and it is not ready to go. So we're going to let this finish heating up, and my timer is going to go off in just about under 5 minutes because I'm making some white rice to go with this beef dish. Okay, let's dip another piece in here. Oh yeah, it's sizzling, so we are ready to go. So I'm going to reduce the heat to about medium to medium high. And then I'm just going to start putting small batches of this meat in here. And this beef is sliced so thin. This may be something I might want to change later and do it a little thicker, but it's still going to turn out good. You can see how quickly this beef is cooking. It's not going to take any time at all. Maybe a minute per side because it's so thin. What I'm thinking too is if this meat was a little thicker, not so paper thin like this, it might hold up better where you could actually fry it and get it in pieces like this, which is what I would aim for the next time. And just like that, this batch is ready to go. So I'm gonna move the pieces that are done over to this rack so the oil can just kind of drip down and not stay coated in the meat. And then I'm gonna finish frying up the rest of the beef, and when all the beef is done, we'll go ahead and go to the next step. So I am on my last batch, as you can see, and this really cooks up fast. And if you can fry bacon, you can fry this. I haven't had to add any more oil. I've kept my heat at a steady medium, and it's just turning out wonderfully. I mean, I don't even know if it's a minute per side. It cooks up that fast. And part of it is because this meat is really thin. The Shabu beef, when I looked it up, it said they use it for a Japanese hot pot. And I could see why, because this would just go into a warm broth and cook rather quick. I tend to like really lean meat, so I think I'm really gonna like this. And this pan, this hex-clad pan, is, I will only tell you guys if I use something that I totally swear by, and this is one of them. I got it maybe 6 months ago, and it is my favorite pan. I've been seeing a lot of people cooking with it on TV and YouTube, and now I know why. They're amazing. So I'll put a link in the description. It is an Amazon affiliate link, so I would earn a small commission if you bought it. I haven't earned anything yet on anything else I've put on there, so this isn't like a sales pitch at all. I just want to tell you about tools that I use that I totally believe in and I would recommend to anyone. So now this is done. I'm going to pour off all but about a tablespoon of this oil to cook the vegetables. Okay, so a little bit of oil left in here, but I'm dying to taste this. Oh my gosh. You don't really taste the marinade. It just tastes like beef, and it's crispy. Like the crispiness you get in the Chinese food dishes. So I'm really excited that this is going to turn out good. And I think the hard part is over, cooking the meat. So to this oil, and because this pan is hot, I cut up half of a red bell pepper and half of a green bell pepper and maybe about a third of an onion. I didn't really know how much I was going to use because I wanted to see how much the meat, how much meat came out after it was done, because sometimes it has a tendency to shrink up. I think I'm just going to go for it and use all of it. I think that's going to be a good ratio. So we're going to cook this for a couple minutes till it gets nice and soft. If you like your peppers on the crispier side when you go out to eat or when you cook, just cook them for a few minutes. I like my vegetables a little softer, so I'm going to probably cook these for a couple minutes. So I've been sauteing these vegetables for about 4 to 5 minutes here on medium to medium high heat. I have 2 cloves of garlic that I'm going to put in here. And these are the aromatics. We just want to let them cook for about a minute or two. And at this point right here, to me, this looks like fajita vegetables. But as soon as we add this, which is the chopped ginger, it's going to change the whole thing. So it's 2 cloves of garlic and about 1 inch of a piece of ginger that I just minced up as finely as I can. So we're just going to let this cook for about 1 minute. And I have some of these green onions cut on the bias that I'm going to use for garnish. But what the heck, let's add some of those in there too. If you leave your ginger and your garlic in here too long, if you were like going to add them when you had the onions and peppers in there, they would just overcook and burn. And you don't want that, because then it's just bitter and it ruins the whole thing. You're just kind of warming it up to release the oils and the flavors, and that's about all you need. Okay, so this is perfect. I'm going to turn the heat off and put all these vegetables into a glass bowl, because the next thing we're going to do is make the sauce. I just need to remember this is hot. set this. I'll set this over here. And then let me get my eyeballs on. Okay, for the sauce, we're gonna mix 1 tablespoon of sugar with 2 teaspoons of cornstarch. So this is gonna help thicken up the sauce. Let's see, a teaspoon of chili flakes. If you're sensitive to heat, you can add a little less. I'm actually gonna do about half a teaspoon because I don't want it too spicy. And then we're gonna go for all the wet ingredients. So I have a teaspoon of toasted sesame oil and 2 tablespoons of Hoisin sauce. That is really thick sauce. 2 tablespoons of oyster sauce. Now one of my best friends is gonna see this and she's gonna be like, I'm not eating that. There's oysters in there. Just don't look at the ingredients. It smells wonderful. 1 tablespoon of that low sodium soy sauce that we used earlier. Now I don't have that Shaoxing wine, so I'm just gonna use the sherry and I'm gonna use 1 tablespoon-ish. Okay, let me verify I have all of the ingredients. Okay, so as you can see, it's already pretty thick. So we just need to put the pan back on the heat. We're going to warm up the sauce and then add the meat and the vegetables into it and we will be done. Oh, this smells really nice. I'm gonna use my little spatula here to get all of this sauce out because it's not very saucy. So we're just heating this up. And we are going to add all of the meat. I'm hoping this is all going to fit in here, you guys. I got to looking at it when I was cooking the vegetables and thinking, uh-oh, my favorite pan may be too small. And there's like hardly any oil in the bottom of this pan, so I like that. It's not gonna be really oily at all. Oh, it's gonna fit. Okay, and the vegetables. I think I'm just gonna use my tongs so I can just toss it. I don't know if I mentioned, but this was 1.5 pounds of that beef. And we just want to cook it till that sauce kind of coats the meat and it makes just a sticky glaze. So it's not a saucy dish at all. This sauce that we made is just supposed to act as a glaze. So I just want to make sure I can turn it as much as possible. Okay, this is ready. So I'm gonna turn this off the heat, get my plate, get some rice, and I'll meet you back over at the counter and we'll do a taste test and we'll talk about things that I would do differently the next time. All right, so we have the rice done and the Mongolian beef is done and I'm really excited to try it. So let's plate up a little bit and put some rice. I use basmati rice because that's my favorite, but you could use any rice that you like. And then, of course, this beautiful Mongolian beef. You can see the onions and peppers and the crispy bits. I love just all the colors that are in there. And then we have a little green onion to garnish and some sesame seeds. And I think that looks like a mastered takeout dish. So let's give it a try. I'm super excited for this. Wow. This is so good. Okay. If I had a mic, I would drop it because this is fantastic. So things I would do different next time. I think I might add a little bit more sauce, which is the glaze. I wouldn't change anything with the marinade. I would probably either double or at least 1.5 times the sauce, just because there's so much meat in here. I think it needed a little bit more to get a more even glaze over all the pieces. Initially, when I was frying the beef, I'm thinking, oh, this might be too thin. But I actually really like it thin because now when you're eating this, every bite is so tender and crispy and there's none of those tough beef pieces. And that's the way I prefer to eat things like this, is I just want it to be nice and tender and flavorful. So if you've never made Mongolian beef before, now you've got a recipe to follow. I hope you give it a try. If you do, please let me know in the comments. If you like this type of content and you want to see more recipes that I'm just trying it with you for the first time, also let me know. That's it for today. Whether it turns into a weekly favorite or just gives you a little extra kitchen courage, I'm so glad you cooked along with me. I'll see you next week with another easy home style recipe.